Okay, so today we are going to discuss about the topic factors determining the supply. So we shall discuss in detail what are the various factors that are determining the supply of a commodity. So there are basically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 factors that usually determines the supply of any product or a commodity. So we have seen the supply schedule or the supply curve. So from the supply schedule or the supply curve, we have come to know that quantity supplied varies directly with price of a product. So the quantity that is being supplied is directly proportionate with the price of a product. And a supply schedule or supply curve also show that supply of a product is a function of its price. So supply is the function of price. But however, supply depends not only on price, as we have seen. It does not depend only on the price of a product, but also on several other factors. So we have seen in the previous classes that effects of changes in price of a product on the quantity supply of it is explained by the movement along the given supply curve. So movement along the supply curve is because of the changes in prices. What about the shift in the supply curve? So shift in the supply curve is determined or is caused by other factors rather than prices. Other factors such as change in technology and then price of the inputs, etc. So all those will determine the shift in the price, and movement along the supply curve is determined by the prices or is caused by the price. So while making a supply schedule or supply curve, we made the assumption that other factors that is capable of influencing the supply are kept constant. We are assuming that other factors that determine supply are kept constant. Thus, when these other factors changes, so we have assumed that these factors are constant, but actually when these other factors change, they cause a shift in the entire supply curve. So it is because of the changes in the other factors that cause a shift in the entire supply curve, as you see here, shifting of the supply curve. So the factors other than price which determines price are the following. Which determines prices. So other factors which is capable of determining the supply are as follows. Number 1 is production technology, prices of inputs, prices of other products, objectives of the firm, number of producers or firms, future price expectations, taxes, and subsidies. So these are the various factors that is capable of influencing the supply of a commodity. So first up, we have production technology. So a change in technology. So with a change in technology, whether it is upgrading of technology, it affects the supply curve by altering the cost of production. So when technology is changed, it alters the cost of production. Cost of production is changed because there is a change in the technology taking place. So if there occurs an improvement in production technology, so if there is an advancement or improvement in production technology that is used by the firms, productivity of factors increases, and obviously when improvement takes place in technology, then productivity also increases, and then marginal cost of production declines for any given level of output. So in that case, the firms would supply more than before at a given price. So what we are seeing is when there is a technological advancement, when there is improvement in technology, productivity of the firm, productivity of the factor of production increases, and at the same time the marginal product, the marginal cost is not the marginal product, but the marginal cost incurred is also declining. So at that situation, what a producer will do is a producer will supply more quantity of output at a particular price level of the output. So that is in case of when there is an improvement in production technology. So the supply would increase, implying that the supply curve would shift towards the right. So supply curve is shifting towards the right because technology has made an improvement. So at the same prices, a producer is willing to supply more. That is OQ2. Earlier it was supplying only OQ1, but because of the shift in the supply curve, and the shift in the supply curve takes place because of the improvement in technology, the producers or firm is able to produce or willing to produce more, willing to supply more at the prevailing price level for that output. So that is the case of a supply curve shifting towards the right. Rightward shift of the supply curve because of the improvement in technology, and in this case a producer is willing to supply more quantity, or he's going to supply more output at a certain price level, that is OP. So there is an increase in supply that is taking place due to progress in technology. So on the x-axis we are measuring quantity, y-axis we are measuring price, and then SS is the supply curve, initial supply curve, and then S dash is the supply curve, shifting of the supply curve from SS to S dash S dash. So shifting towards the right takes place because of the progress in technology, and this is implying that there is an increase in supply. So rightward shift of the supply curve is indicating that there is an increase in the supply due to the progress in technology. So the quantity of output has increased from OQ1 to OQ2 output. So in the second place we have prices of inputs. So what will happen when there is a changes in the prices of inputs? What will happen to the supply? So changes in price of factors or inputs also cause a change in the marginal cost of production and consequently bring about change in the supply. So for example, let us take a situation. So wages of labor has increased, or let us say prices of raw materials and fuel go up. The marginal cost of production will rise. So when there is a rise or increase in the wages of the labor, or the prices of the raw materials, or prices of fuel goes up, the effect will be felt on the marginal cost. So marginal cost of production or cost of production will rise. So in this case, with the higher marginal cost of production, less would be supplied than before at various prices. So when that takes place, when price of raw materials increase or wages of labor increases, then marginal cost of production increases, and at that point a producer will supply less than before at various prices, implying that supply curve would shift towards the left. So this is shifting towards the left. So this is shown in figure 6. So figure 6 is showing the leftward shift in the supply curve due to rise in input prices. So because of the rise in the prices of inputs, that is inputs, wages for the laborers, and then prices of raw materials, all those things, when those prices increases, we see the leftward shift of the supply curve from SS to S dash dash S dash dash, indicating that less will be supplied at that price level, at various price level. So earlier it was the initial supply curve SS. Earlier it was supplying OQ, a level of output, but with the leftward shift of the supply curve towards S dash dash S dash dash, the quantity supply has reduced, or it has become lesser. So OQ1 is less than OQ. So quantity supply has reduced because of that leftward shift in the supply curve. due to the rise in the input prices. So a leftward shift of the supply curve indicates that at any given price level, smaller quantity of the product will be produced and supplied in the market. So that is price of inputs. So the next one that we have is price of other products. So when we draw or when we talk about the supply curve, we assume that price of other factors or price of other products, specifically price of other products, are remaining constant or they remain unchanged. So now any change in the price of other products would definitely influence the supply of product, by causing a substitution of one product for another. So when price of other product is taken into consideration and there is a chance of substitution of one product for another. Let's take an example. If market price of wheat rises, so prices for wheat rises, it will lead to the reduction in the production and supply of pulses by the farmers. So we are considering wheat and pulses. So if the prices for wheat rises, then people will supply less of pulses by the farmers, as they would withdraw some land from the other resources from the production of pulses, and they will devote that land to production of wheat, because wheat prices for wheat is higher than the pulses. So this will cause a leftward shift in the supply curve of pulses, and it will make a rightward shift for the supply curve of wheat, because wheat is more profitable, or the price for wheat has increased comparing with pulses, and then people will supply less of pulses and supply more of wheat. So this case is happening because we are considering the prices of other products. So when we consider prices of other products, then it affects the supply of a commodity. So as we have seen, the prices for wheat and product. So prices of wheat increases will lead to or will affect the production of pulses. People will supply more of wheat because price is higher for wheat, and people will supply less of pulses because prices for pulses is low. The next is we have objectives of the firm. So the objective or aims or targets of a firm also determines the supply of a product produced by it. So if the firm aim at maximizing sales, so if the objective, aim and target of the firm or producer is maximizing sales or revenue rather than profit making, then the producers of the product produced by it, and hence the supply of it in the market would be larger. So if a particular firm or a producer is targeting to maximize their sales or revenue rather than making profit, the production of the product produced by the firm will be increased. So the supply will be more. Supply will be larger in the market if their aim or objective is maximizing their sales or revenue rather than profit making. So it depends on the objectives of the firm, whether to supply more or supply less. So objectives of the firm also determines the supply of a product. Fifth one, number of producers or firms. So if number of firms producing a product increases, it is obvious that market supply of the product will increase, again causing a rightward shift in the supply curve. On the other hand, when due to losses, some firms leave the industry, then the supply of its product will decrease and supply curve again will shift to the left. So if more people are producing a product, then supply will be more obviously, and then if less producers or firms are producing that particular product, then supply will be less in the market. So number of producers or firm also determines the supply of a product. The next one is future price expectations. So the supply of a commodity in the market, at any time is also determined by sellers' expectation or producers' expectations of future prices. If, as happens during inflationary period, inflation means price has risen. There is a general rise in the price. When that situation comes, sellers expect prices to rise in the future. So, if they expect the prices to rise in the future, they would reduce supply of products at the market at present time, and they would hoard them. So, when they expect a situation when there is a rise in the price for a product in the future, when they foresee or when they expect that prices will be rising in the future, what they will do is they will hoard the product to sell in the future, and then at the present situation supply will be less. So the hoarding of huge quantities of goods by producers and sellers is an important factor in reducing supplies in the market and thus causing further rise in their prices. So this future price expectation plays an important role in determining the amount of product that is also being supplied. The last factors that we have is taxes and subsidies. So taxes and subsidies also influence supply of product. So they obviously influence the supply of a product. If an excise duty or sales tax is levied on a product, what will the firms do? The firms will supply the same amount of the product at a higher price, or even less of the product at the same prices, because taxes and subsidies or sales tax or excise duties imposed on the product. So the firm will supply the same amount or even less of it would mean the supply will be less. They will not increase their supply. At the maximum they will supply at the same amount, or even sometimes they will supply less quantity of it at the same price when there is tax and tax or sales tax or excise duty imposed on the product. So when there is a imposition of excise duty or sales tax, the firms will react by not increasing their supply, or sometimes they will even supply less quantity of it even though price remaining the same. This implies that imposition of sales tax or excise duty cause a leftward shift in the supply curve. So leftward shifts mean there is a less supply at the same price level. The opposite can also happen in case of supply curve of a commodity, when government provides subsidies on it. So when government provides subsidies for a particular product, producers or farm will supply more of a commodity or product in the market. So what follows from this discussion is that technology, prices of factors, and price of other products, expectations regarding future prices, taxes and subsidies, and objectives of the firms, they are all important determinants of supply, which cause the rightward or leftward shift in the whole supply curve. So these all factors are important determinants when it comes to supply of a particular commodity, whether it is causing rightward shift or leftward shift in the entire supply curve. So these are the factors that will determine supply of a particular commodity or a product.